Hello, everyone. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. Thanks for tuning in. If you could hit the like button for me. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that. Votes are in. People want me to keep the mustache. One vote against. That was my mother. So it'll stick around for a while. But my wife said her vote counts as 50 votes, and she doesn't want me to keep it, so it might be gone here soon. All right, so what I want to talk to you about today is Schumpeter's creative destruction. Economic term that basically means as economic downturns happen or changes in the market happen, the cream rises to the top, meaning businesses that had good business practices will survive. Businesses that didn't will die off. And so that kind of builds on itself, right? People who have good business practices, people will learn from them. And if they don't continue to have good business practices, then they'll die off. So they have this risk parity where they're like, hey, I don't just need to think about money today. I need to think about surviving like an economic downturn like we're dealing with today. And that's good for the consumer because businesses that stick around have strong business practices, and they don't take undue risk with maybe the products or your money, right? And we're seeing this happen right now in the crypto market. If you're not invested in crypto, that's fine. But basically what you're seeing right now in the crypto market is this contagion where one borrower, one hedge fund goes under, and it affects all these other people in the chain. And that's exactly what happened in the 2008 crash, except the big boy government, Big Brother, came in and bailed them out. Now, this creative destruction allows for a strong economy, and that's why crashes are a good thing, right? Because as things crash, all the bad investment and the malinvestment gets cleared out, and people who are smart with money maybe buy those bankrupt companies and go, hey, I'm going to run this company that much better next time. Now, when the government gets involved and sticks their little fingers in, they distort incentives. Because if there is a big brother out there who will bail you out if you take undue risk, why wouldn't you want to take undue risk? And at some point, you become the sucker, the sucker in the business world. Because if everyone gets a bailout, because the Federal Reserve and the government doesn't want to see an economic downturn, if you're the one person not taking risk, you won't survive. Because everybody else is out competing you because they're relying on the money printer. So it creates all these distortions, and the government's really good at that. They love creating distortions. And I want to talk specifically about the car market. Okay, as you know, the used car market, the new car market has been insane. Mostly used cars because new cars you couldn't get because of supply chain crunch. Now, if you've been around America for any length of time, you know that people love to spend a lot of money on cars. A lot. Too much, if you will. And a lot of our economy relies on these car loans. Because remember, money is loaned into existence. So the more loans that can be created by banks, etc., the more money they make. So yippee for them. And it's one of those loans where they give them to unqualified buyers and all that. You've probably dealt with this at car dealerships all the time, right? Because people are worried about the payment, not necessarily how much the car costs. Now, anecdotally, here's how crazy the car market is. I bought a truck in 2019, and 1 year later, or I guess it was 2 years later, I sold it back to the same dealership I bought it from for $7,000 more than I bought it for. Has that ever existed? No. Okay. So obviously the market is distorted, but lucky me, I got $7,000 profit, and I got to use the car for free for 2 years. Lucky me. So what's happening in the car market? Well, you can guess, right? People take on these loans, and they often take on these loans, or they did in 2020 and 2021, where their pocketbooks were full because of the stimmy checks, right? And when I talk about Schumpeter's creative destruction, what I'm talking about is what's going to go down here in the car market and what's going to go down with banks and how people are getting their cars repossessed and their loans aren't getting paid off and all that kind of stuff. the question is the government going to come in and go, hey, I'm sorry about your loss, here's some money? That's what they've done in the past, and it just creates, it makes this vicious cycle where people are incentivized to do stupid things with financing. So I'm reading from an article titled "The Canary in the Carmine." How punny. Repos from auto loans that originated in 2020 and 2021 are skyrocketing. So this is an article from Zero Hedge. I'm going to read a couple quotes here. One car dealer said that this week that most loans on cars currently being repossessed originated in 2020 and 2021. What does that tell us? They bought them with financing based off of stimmy checks, not based off of income. And the stimmy checks have stopped. So if their payment and their ability to pay was based off of stimmy checks, what do you think's happening now? That's right, they can't pay it. And car dealerships and financiers are more than happy to get these cars off the lot. They just want to move them, right? So they will give a car loan to a baby if they need to. Once it's off their lot, they don't care, right? So this trend differs than most repo seasons. Why? Because typically the origination dates of the car loan are scattered, meaning when people are repossessing cars, maybe somebody financed it in 2015, 16, blah, 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 blah. And so they default on the loan randomly. But majority of these people defaulting now are from 2020 and 2021, which means they had an influx of cash and now they can't afford it. And there was a ton of people buying new cars. Okay, so that's a problem for the economy. Many of the loans were extended to buyers who had temporary pops in income during the pandemic. Okay, no one working, and you have more money. Only in the government we live in, okay? Further down, it says the auto dealer says that he bought a Bentley, McLaren, and 2 Aston Martins for 2 buyers, now in default, who used PPP money. Do you remember what I said about PPP? Only 1 out of $4 went to actually pay people's salaries. Jeez. Okay. Everyone thought the gravy train would never end, he said. Never seen so many people making $2,500 a month, owing $1,000 a month in car payments. You know, as if you're a less qualified buyer, obviously your interest rate goes up. Now, when we talk contagion in the system we're in, if car loans default, they can be repossessed. But as we all know, if you bought the car new, it loses value and all that kind of stuff. And they're probably going to lose even more value as people's purchasing power goes down, right? They're going to have to drop the price, even on new cars, etc. So now the bank owns, once they repossess it, they own a used car that's not worth what the loan that was taken out on it. And so they have a problem, okay? And even with these people that bought the car, if they can't make the payment on the car and it gets repossessed and it gets dinged on their credit, what else do you think that's affecting in the market? So it has this contagion effect in the banking system because banks lent out this money and now they're getting repossessed, and that can affect other loans as well. And it has a contagion effect on the consumer. Now, although this isn't yippee, let's cheer, because the economy falling apart obviously isn't a good thing. But if it's falling apart because of degenerate gambling and people taking on loans that they shouldn't have taken, that is actually a good thing in the long run. In the short run, not so much for the economy, but in the long run, the economy comes back stronger. And nearly every time, the government comes in and bails these people out. Problem, right? I talked about this when it comes to pension funds the other day. People need to realize with pensions, hey, your pension isn't actually guaranteed. It's invested in the market. And if the government comes in and bails out these pensions, then people will go, oh, okay, it's no risk, I guess, because the government's bailing me out. Meanwhile, the lesson they should have realized is your pension's not guaranteed, and maybe you should invest money yourself as well. Okay? But they don't learn that lesson because the government comes in and makes the bubble that much bigger. And eventually, there is no more road to kick the can down. There's no more. And the pain of that bubble popping is much worse. Much worse. That's what the government does. They skip short-term pain to make the long-term pain way worse. And a lot of consumers don't realize this. Okay. Further down the article, it says, auto debt is now 10% of total consumer debt, rising to $87 billion for the year ending in March 2022, for a total of $1.47 trillion in car loans. And a lot of these loans were taken out in 2020 and 2021 because of stimmy checks. If you don't think that 10% of consumer debt and people defaulting on it is going to have contagion effects elsewhere, whether that be credit card debt, your home, even consumer buying, right? Because their credit score goes down. My annoying dog. So the big thing is, what you want in an economy is consumers who spend. In a healthy economy, you want consumers who spend from surplus, not consumers who are borrowing from the future to spend in the present. That's how the American economy is run, both from a monetary perspective at the Fed and from a consumer perspective. We need consumption. We need people to take on more credit card debt, etc. But eventually that gravy train stops. It does. And the pain of that gravy train falling apart is massive. When you have a strong foundation of consumers who buy based off of surplus, aka savings, okay, and they're not taking on massive amounts of debt to fund their lifestyle, because the people who take on massive amounts of debt to fund their lifestyle beyond their means, obviously that eventually falls apart, right? Because you need that Ponzi scheme to keep going. You need more credit to pay off the credit that you just took out. I hope the government doesn't come and bail companies out who took on too much risk by giving loans to consumers in the car market that they shouldn't have. But history has told us that that's not true. What's actually going to happen is the government's going to come in, devalue the dollar more by bailing these people out to get votes, unfortunately. All you can do is play probabilities, as George Gammon says. There is no certainties. It's not guaranteed that the government's going to bail this kind of degenerate gambling out. But probability-wise, it's higher than 50% that the government's going to do what they've always done, which is buy votes by bailing people, bailing banks, bailing people out. It's really sad. All that does is devalue the dollar. So, anyways, let me know what you think. Iced coffee, very good. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I think this is one of many warning signs, and we'll go over some more later on this week. One of many warning signs that we could be going into the most epic economic collapse of my lifetime. Worse than 2008, and bordering on depression is what some of these data points are looking like, unfortunately. And the government can only make it worse. They need to let it happen. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys in the next one. Peace.